This is my first business and I've made so many mistakes. I've spent a lot of money I shouldn't have.
She would tell me, you are bloody intense. You need to calm down.
None of the traditional stuff has helped me to hire, like none of it.
You're watching the Misfit Founders podcast, a raw conversation about the challenges of building businesses, overcoming hardships, and also feeling out of place. I'm Biro, an exited founder, investor, and advisor who failed quite a few businesses in the past. My mission with Misfit Founders to help at least one founder every single month by unveiling the authentic stories of other founders and providing guidance and support. So I hope you enjoy the podcast today and get useful insights out of it. And if you do join the conversation on our WhatsApp community, where we discuss topics like this one, in this podcast, in group, as well as private sessions. Link in the video description. Also, please subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you get notified when we publish new videos. My house is a madhouse with 2 dogs running around. Well, anyways, you made it. Thank you so much for joining. Do you want to quickly do a quick introduction? Who is Kristina and, what is Southeast Angels?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Super excited to have this chat with you. So I run an angel group called Southeast Angels, which is essentially a collective of individual investors who are interested in investing in early stage companies. And hence the name Southeast Angels, where we're specifically looking at the Southeast regions in the UK, trying to find the best innovative companies.
And I'm one of them.
And you are one of the members. That's how, absolutely, which is awesome. So I'm so excited to get into your perspective of it as well.
Awesome. Yes. I'm curious. So you're SEAC, Southeast Angels, yeah? And you have plans to extend beyond Southeast Angel, I suppose.
Beyond the Southeast?
Yeah. Is that a thing or?
No. So the ultimate goal is to kind of dominate the Southeast in the sense of being the most active in the Southeast. We started off focusing on Brighton. So, I'm Brighton, you're Brighton based. And my goal initially was to create, the only angel group that existed in Brighton at the time and still now actually, because Brighton didn't have an angel group. So all these early stage companies are trying to raise money and they didn't have anywhere to go. There wasn't even a VC or a fund. So they'd all have to compete in London in one of the most competitive funding markets. So having an angel group in Brighton means that local businesses have a place to go where they know investors are looking for them as well. So it's kind of creating this hub, this investment hub and community for local investors. Essentially, that was the goal. Now, the next step is to do that for the whole of the Southeast because it's quite neglected. The regions outside London are quite neglected for investment.
Yeah, I mean, London is a hub, and then you go up north, Edinburgh, probably a hub as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So we're basically the first syndicate in Brighton.
There have been syndicates that have come and gone, but none of them managed to stick around. So they tried something and it wouldn't work. And I think it was mostly because people tried to replicate what was in London, tried to put that same kind of structure in place, whereas Brighton is its own thing, isn't it? It kind of operates in its own bubble and it needed its own special thing that somebody or a community that really understood Brighton businesses and knew how to find them. So that was kind of, our unique thing that we came in with. So we're the only angel group and I guess the most active as well, we can say.
I mean, from my own experience, yes. From my limited experience as an angel investor, yes, 100%. So I wanted to talk to you about this, and I wanted to ask a question which I actually asked you before, which was, aside from the fact, which is pretty clear, the fact that there wasn't support for startups, for funding for startups here in Brighton and in Southeast. I'm interested in your reasons, right? Beyond the, I'm helping, I'm creating a bit of a community and an environment, a friendly environment in Brighton and in Southeast, dominating Southeast, like you say.
Yeah.
What drives you, right? What is your personal drive in all of this?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because actually my background is not in investment. at all. So this, I learned as I went along in this world. And I get that question quite a lot because people are like, well, you're not from an investment background. What made you do this? And the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning is problem solving. And before this, I was running a startup accelerator in Brighton, helping companies raise money. And I realized there was just this big problem in the local area and people were trying to solve it, but not in the right way. And I was, I had that kind of naive entrepreneur mentality. I was like, I can do it better. And so for me, it was just, I got so obsessed with solving this problem. I was like, nobody is figuring out how to help these companies. And then I realized another problem, which was I started speaking to local investors and they didn't know each other. They weren't helping each other to invest alongside each other. So I was like, okay, there's an even bigger problem here. Yeah. And solving those two could, help sort of solve each other essentially. So I just got obsessed with solving that problem. And there's always another problem to find, isn't there, once you unpack it? So I'm pretty set.
I'm curious because I think I can relate with that. I'm quite like you. I've seen so many patterns and so many challenges along the way, and I've tried to solve so many along the way, and I failed building lucrative businesses, mainly because of my own lacks, right? But I'm curious, and I say this quite a lot, right? So when we do the angel investor pitches, the startups that pitch, the entrepreneurs that come over, as you probably notice, one of the things that I'm quite interested in and keen on exploring, and that excites me, is when an entrepreneur has the background, the experience, and the connections to make something happen, right? And for me, in the past, the lack of that was what made me fail so many other businesses. Right. So now I'm looking for that pattern. Like, well, I know that they're probably going to succeed because they have the experience and the background and so on. And you just mentioned you didn't have the experience in this. So, but I also know that Southeast Angel has been growing and is doing quite well. It's an exciting company in Brighton and Southeast. What's your secret? What got you there? What are some of those ingredients that make you a successful business or a towards success type of business?
Yeah, I mean, really, really interesting question and so many layers to unpack there. I guess I don't know. I think you can look at Southeast Angels as an investment company, which technically is. And actually, if you really break it down, it's a community. And actually, my background and experience is in working with startup communities, working in marketing, where you're trying to build communities and content and, help people to align alongside a goal, right? So if you really look at what Southeast Angels is, it's a community built around a mission. So in a way, my experience almost didn't matter. The thing that I was passionate about and the thing that I'd done many times before was helping communities to sort of thrive and connect. So I guess in a way you could say that I did have some experience there, but I often like to challenge investors' perspective around only investing in credible or experienced founders, right? Because I totally agree with you, because this is my first business and I've made so many mistakes. I've spent a lot of money I shouldn't have. So and I've raised investment, right? So some of that money was investors' money, and I'm like, okay, well, I messed up here and whatnot. And I know that in my next business I won't do those things, and I'll be much better at spending my money in the right way and all that kind of stuff. So there's so much truth in that. However, all great founders were first founders at some point, and being able to build relationships with those kind of founders who, if someone's just really great and that they can achieve something, even if it's not with this business, right? You put in a 10K check into their business now, you now have first dibs on their next thing, or that business could evolve into something else. So yeah, I think I don't know, for me, investing in businesses, that wouldn't stop me if it was somebody who hadn't done it before. Because that's more fun, right?
You are right. And I think I get caught up in but they don't have experience here. Are they going to be able to make it? And sometimes I pull myself back and I'm saddened by my own thinking. Because I want eventually to get into a different industry, to do something, to build a business that might not necessarily be related to wealth of a background that I have and knowledge and experience in a specific industry. I might just go into a different industry at one point. I've been thinking about that. And then taking a step back from some of the conversations at our table around the investors and looking at myself and looking at everyone else, kind of analyzing that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Where's their experience? And I take a step back and think to myself, oh, that's sad. I wouldn't invest in myself.
But the thing is, you have to look at that, right? Because there's so many unknowns as an investor. It's one of the things you can look at. But I do think there is, maybe it's not as obvious as this person has experience in that industry. Because when they do, it's like, it's a no-brainer. They get the industry, they have the contacts. Like, obviously they're going to do well. But there's also transferable skills, right? And something you do in one business, you could make another industry succeed. You could succeed on another level in that industry because of the transferable skills you have from something else.
And that's where your community building skills come in. And you're right. I think that's because if I look at our angel investor group, that's at the basis of a lot of, community building, networking, being able to pull the amount of startups that you guys are able to look at. It's insane, honestly. Like, where do you pull so many startups every single month to look at it? So I'm definitely impressed with a lot of the abilities that you and your team have. And I think that's the point, right? And that's the point that you're making as well, is skills are transferable. If you're able to, and this is probably an advice for any startup founders that are looking for funding. If you're able to vocalize your skill set, your strong skill set that kind of overlap with that specific industry, yes, you don't necessarily need to have the experience, been spending years in this industry, whatever, B2B SaaS or whatnot, but now you're into B2B SaaS, but you were in, let's say, digital, but you're bringing a bunch of skills that will help you grow, and you can basically vocalize how those skills will help you grow. Because I think that's what probably you thought about it along the way was, well, I can start this. I have experience in putting people together and bringing a community and growing a community and getting people excited. You got me excited when we initially were talking about me joining the group. So yeah, I think there's something there.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's a thing about changing the perspective of not looking for, does this founder have experience in this sector, but how obsessed is this founder with this problem as well? Because maybe I didn't, and the thing is, founders are people who create something out of nothing often. And if they are curious about a problem enough, they will figure out a way. And actually not knowing the industry gives you some benefits because you're going to do it differently, right? You're going to come up with your whole new way. And sometimes it might not be the best way or the most efficient way. So I think, founders who are obsessed with a problem, because the solution is going to change, and almost you can get mentors for that. You can get support on that and do it in your own way. But just obsessing over the problem, I think, is probably...
You have to be obsessed, but open-minded.
Yeah.
Because I've been obsessed in the past, but completely,
open-minded about the solution.
Yeah,
but obsessed with the problem.
Yes, open-minded about the solution, obsessed about the problem. That's a good one. I'm going to keep that. Open-minded about the solution, obsessed about the problem, and open-minded in... obsessed in such a way that you're open-minded enough to get the support systems in place that you need in order to succeed.
Absolutely, yeah. Because it's it doesn't matter how you get there. You're I don't care how we get it, but this is the problem I want to solve, and how we get there, I don't know. Yeah. And I'm open to any kind of option. I think, that's the best mindset to have. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's when you identify, that's one. And then there's, of course, the founders that I said that I love, which have the experiences.
Love that.
So, well, no, that's brilliant. And I think I value the ability to build a community and create a certain level of pull. I've been in there a couple of times, and in a way, this is one of the things that I'm trying to do with Misfit Founders as well, because we a lot of us can relate, and a lot of us have gone through businesses and failed. And fundamentally, that's the audience that's watching these podcasts are either people that have tried to build businesses and failed and decided, I'm just going to get a job because entrepreneurship ain't for me.
Yeah.
Which
it's not for everyone.
yeah, it's not for everyone, but sometimes you might be wrong in your judgment. It might be just your current circumstances. So I want to kind of help show your perspective of what it means to go through the hardships of a business, yet succeed through content like this. So that, to me, the community building and putting a lot of good in the world and having the ability to help and support as many people is very valuable. And I think this is one of the reasons why I have this this pull towards what you're doing with Southeast Angel, because it's the same pattern. You're helping a lot of the angel investors, but also the startups, and you're creating communities, and you're building something that's probably weighing more towards giving than taking, probably a lot more, right? Maybe if you're in it for just for the money or for the money, you would have gone a completely different route, right?
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, what we're doing is not massively scalable because we have quite a limited, I guess, vision in a way of how big we can grow, how much we want to kind of focus on regionally. But it doesn't mean that there isn't opportunities for us to grow in other ways, which, we're exploring. But it's like, yeah, focus on that first, see what comes out of it. But you're right. The main reason that I'm doing this is to solve that problem, to try and bring people together. I didn't start it thinking this is going to be the most successful business that's going to make me loads of money, and because it's just not that, it's not that kind of model.
And is this your first business?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had a few other, I don't know if I'd call them businesses, but yeah, just like project businesses. The last thing I did was called The Career Body. Okay. And it was basically helping, it was like coaching women through like with fitness and stuff like that, who are really busy and like career women, hence Career Body. So women who would travel for work, I had clients in London and New York and stuff like that, and they would travel a lot for the work, and they didn't have time to go to the gym, or they don't have time to meet with a personal trainer, so they would just have me on WhatsApp 24/7. That was my that was my USP, and they could just send me a picture of a menu. I tell them what to eat and all that kind of stuff. Because my background's in fitness, so yeah, I quite enjoyed that kind of stuff. But again, not a scalable business, very time consuming.
Yeah. Well, so you're a problem solver. Do you consider yourself a problem solver?
I think so. Well, hopefully I will solve some problems along my career.
And you enjoy the challenge. You enjoy...
yeah, absolutely. If that's like, I don't know if I can call myself problem solver yet, but I think that's what I enjoy 100%.
I think any person that's, I would say, a tad modest wouldn't call themselves, I'm a problem solver. But basically, that's what drives me. That's what drives you. 100%. That you enjoy looking at a problem and a challenge and coming up with. And where is, and I'm digging here a bit. Where is the reward, like the satisfaction? Is it at what stage? Is it identifying the problem? Is it the exploration and discovery phase around that problem, or is it when you nail the solution? What are, and you might tell me a mix of it, but what gives you the most satisfaction and keeps you hooked, addicted to solving problems, basically?
What an interesting question. God, never really thought about that. Well, first of all, here's one problem with this trait is that, and I don't know if you've experienced this as well, but there's so many problems to solve, and you need to really rein yourself in sometimes, like I'll find another problem, like, oh my God, we can solve this, we need to do this. And I'm like, we can't do everything, so you have to focus. But so I think for me, the thing that really excites me about problem solving is, I feel like when I see a problem, that is quite complex, or someone hasn't been able to solve, I'm like, okay, well, it's actually quite simple. Let's just draw it out. Like, you do this. And so for me, it's that figuring out how we can structure the solution and make it really, really simple. And I just think that some things are just made way too complicated than they should be. Like, the whole investment world seems way too complicated than it should be, which means a lot of people don't get into investment, or a lot of people don't raise investment because they don't get it, because it's so hidden. So for me, it's like, once I learned about it and I understood it, I was like, this is so straightforward. It's just people. They're investing in companies. And it's like, so I think I love simplifying things.
Yeah.
So finding a complex thing, simplifying it. And then interesting thing about the reward, once we've sold it, I actually probably instantly go on to the next thing. And I'm like, just constantly climbing up that mountain.
I am the exact same thing, but my problem has a name, ADHD. So I'm proper.
Right.
So I jump from one thing to another like crazy, and I start doing something and then going to something else. And actually, Nikki was talking about this in a setup at one point, and said that the moment she felt that Jigsaw is not going to work was when I wanted to completely pivot. We were halfway through building our first app for the Atlassian marketplace.
Yeah.
And I go in one day and say to Nikki, I have a brilliant idea. Decentralized storage systems on crypto, and that's what Jigsaw should be. Maybe we should stop doing this. And so at least you have you have an outcome, you have a end result. I start pivoting halfway through an idea, which is a lot worse.
Yeah, I mean, I do it like, so this is probably what you're talking about. Like, I probably maybe don't have it as extreme. I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I'll be, I don't know, working on some emails. I'll get an email through. I'm like, oh my God, what if we did this thing? And I'll sketch up a whole other business, or buy a domain and do a whole website.
Oh, tell me about
and I'm like,
domains.
Christina, what are you doing? Put this down.
Yeah.
But what's really helped is actually, for me, it's like this outlet of ideas is to have a place where every time I come up with this idea, it's like, shelve it so that I have the satisfaction of being like, I will deal with this at some point, and not letting myself, go into all of it right now. So it's like having a place, my idea book, writing it all down.
You know what? Actually, Nikki brought up an article that she read on the Atlassian blog that is about how to manage ideas, because we all have ideas on a daily basis. And some of us just let them go, forget about it, because we don't do anything about it. We just go on with our days. Some of us go and buy domains, like myself and you, and start a business midday. And some of us try to capture it somehow, but it's not very efficient. So I'll send you that article, because it's awesome. A really cool way of you dedicating some time. If you're an idea person and you come up with challenges and you always want to backlog that, it sounds like you have a way, but this approach helps you structure it a bit better.
Love that.
And then you also have, you mobilize a bit because of the process, so you can do stuff and scope things and so on. So I'll definitely send you that. But I love that, because I'm the same, like the amount of domains that I bought.
I'm just thinking, like, the domain business. I mean, they must be doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Just all these people buying domains just so they can have
for
them for a year.
and then let them go. Let's keep the discussion on your current business, which sounds like it's actually not your first business, but do you consider this
my first proper business?
your first growing and scaling business?
Yeah, something that's bigger than sort
you
of
proved
just
the
me doing
model,
something.
right? You proved it's beyond validation, right?
Yeah, I'd say
you have a
that's
lucrative business now. What has been the one thing that you discovered building a business that you realize, man, I wish I knew this before starting this business? Not specifically this business in this field, but in general.
Just in general,
being a founder and building a business.
I think actually is that just that there aren't really any rules, because so every time I've had to do something like your typical business thing, like hire somebody or I don't know, get a partnership in place or whatever, you tend to go for like, okay, how do people normally do this, and then get the rule book and I don't know, get some advice on it, and that's great because there's standard ways to do things and it helps you like, you know, brainstorm things out. But the great thing about starting a business is you can do things in whatever way you want, you know, obviously to an extent, not legally, but you know, there's certain things you can do whatever you want. You have that flexibility, and I realized actually just to really embrace that. And a really good example is hiring. So people are the toughest part of a business. Like, it's been my biggest challenge. I don't have to say that, right? And every time I've hired and I've gone through okay, I'm going to hire. What do people do? They write a job description, they go to a recruiter, they put a job ad up, and none of the traditional stuff has helped me to hire. Like none of it. And none of the money I spent on it, nothing.
It's very broken. The hiring process. The hiring
that's a whole other problem. We'll get into another time. But what did work for me was all the stuff I did, like what worked personally for me and for my business. So it's like, let's throw the rule book out the window and just say, okay, what am I looking for? Who should I speak to? And just say something to someone on LinkedIn or whoever. And every single great person that I've hired has not been for any traditional means. And nobody could have told me how to do it. It was just something that I personally did for my business. So it's like, yes, we should always look for like, okay, how, you know, don't try and recreate the wheel. Like, yes, find the steps, but then remember that your business is unique and you don't have to follow the rules as well. Like just, yeah. So that was the thing, that going from, you know, working with startup communities, having like, here's how you start a business. Here's how you, that actually, like, yes, it's helpful. I'm not, you know, putting that in any negative light, but at some extent you're like, just figure it out on your own.
And you have to lean on the aspects and the components of building a business that suit your business. And not just even your business and your industry and so on, but you as an entrepreneur and as a founder. It would be the worst thing for you to do things that you hate just because is written in the Bible of how to build a business, right? And we've done the same. So we knew nothing about marketing when we started Jigsaw, and we've done a couple of courses on how to do marketing for SaaS, B2B, product-led stuff. And in the early days, we tried everything. And I was like, oh, that's not working, or we don't have any attraction towards this. And when you don't have an attraction, it doesn't work. It doesn't shine, right? So it might work a bit, but it's not. And then we started slowly settling into what we actually enjoyed, we're passionate about doing as activities, and also squeezing as much and then getting obsessed about how using this technique, how can I maximize the output that I have. And I think that's important. I completely agree when you said, you know, you shouldn't follow. There's so many rule books out there, but you shouldn't follow them religiously.
Totally. And actually now the way that you've been doing your marketing and your content is like, you're really known for that as well. So you ended up doing actually was,
and you discover so many things. Even I've talked to people before that said, you know, I don't think entrepreneurship is for me. I don't want to build a business. I don't see myself going for VC. I don't see myself basically creating a lucrative business and hiring a ton of people and scaling like that. And I always tell them, try it just for the fact that you will be jack of all trades in that company, and you will start exploring and discovering things that you love, right? How would you know where you want? Because the same people were very uncertain of what their professional growth is. So they would look at entrepreneurship, but in the same time, I would rather work in a bigger team, a big organization, have the safety nets, and just be a 9 to 5, and that's perfectly okay. That's acceptable. But what I usually tell people is, well, if you don't know what you're passionate about and what will make you wake up in the morning and go to work like it's, you know, it's a hobby, start a business and do everything in that business, and eventually you'll figure out where you stand. And I suppose that's and I'm interested in this because you were talking about hiring. How do you approach hiring? Do you hire when you see a gap? Do you hire to unload some of the stuff that you don't want to do? What's your process when you want to hire, when you realize that there's a hire to be made?
I can tell you a lot of things not to do. I'm sure I've made so many mistakes in this, and
that's what this podcast is about.
So my first hire was a grad. Actually, I had two grads on a grad scheme program to give me that flexibility of like, you know, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And one of them was really great, Sophie, and I hired her full time, and she worked out really well. And then, you know, she went on to do great things in the business.
She's this her name on all of the invites of the. Is it?
Oh no, that's somebody else. No, that was after. That was after. No, this was my first employee.
First. Okay.
And with that, for me, it was part of it was, you know, I didn't have time to do everything in my business, and a big chunk of our time is evaluating companies because we have so many. So for me, it was finding somebody who could take over a bit of that, and so it was a bit of like really defining the gap, and that hire was just really clear because it was like that's a clear part of the business. It's not somebody, you know, so and I could really separate it out. It was almost like a project thing, and that I think I learned because I made a few mistakes not doing that later. It's really important when you're early stage, even though that person will end up doing everything and that's fine, give them a really defined part of the business that they can become an expert in as well. So they feel like they're motivated through it, because you might not be able to pay them as much as you might like at the start. And so that worked quite well. And the other thing for me was hiring somebody made the business feel more real as well. Like, you know, I was like, okay, well now I actually have a team.
I'm not a freelancer anymore.
Yeah, right. This isn't just me. And I was really careful to not, my business is very much built around like personal relationships and personal brand a little bit. And I didn't want the business to be just me. I wanted it to be its own asset, right? I didn't want it to be, you know, if I leave, then the business doesn't exist. Like, I think to an extent it's still a little bit like that, but I wanted to make sure from the start that I was building a business that was its own credible asset.
Interesting. Why?
Well, because I didn't want to build a job for myself. I wanted to build a business.
Right.
So for me, it was really important. That's probably from all the guidebooks I've read on business. That was important for me to do.
Well, you see, the guys.
But to me personally, that's really important. I didn't want the whole business to be reliant on me.
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
Yeah. You can't, like, I'm someone that probably somewhere in the future, don't know when, I will build some sort of business, be it a side business or be it the main business. I don't know. But I know that eventually in the future, I will do that. I will build a business around my personal brand. And it's interesting that you're saying that you didn't want it for you to be the only person that's working for that business. Because do you really need to, in the sense of, can you not have, for example, and I'm not saying, I think Southeast Angels being its own brand is great, mainly because, one, when it comes to angel investor syndicates and groups and so on, it's probably, at least for me looking at it, it's probably less credibility if there's a person's brand. I've not seen that anywhere. It's you know, it's an organization, it's a group of people.
Totally.
It feels more
it's more established,
community,
like
more established and so on.
Yeah. But
every single personal brand and influencer led businesses have had employees, at least the ones that I've interacted with. So, you know, I'm thinking, well, when I do that, I am going to have people working with me.
It just looks like it's your...
It is mine, because I'm like, everything that my team produces is under my own brand and represents me.
Yeah.
But probably I can do that still. And the reason why I'm asking this is because, just speaking very frankly and open, I think, and I don't know, we'll talk about the stuff that you're interested, how things are looking for you in the future and some of the things that you're into. But just seeing your online presence and your personality, I do think that you can build a personal brand, and you're already building a personal brand and can be an influencer in a specific industry because you have certain skills around that, from even how you communicate online and the ability to be present on socials and channels and so on, and the ability to kind of reverse engineer and figure out what people want to hear where and so on. That's not everyone has that sense, right? There's a reason why so many people are silent on social media, is because they don't want to be present, or they don't have that sense of, I can find the people that are interested in what I want to say here, and I can talk to them and relate to them in this manner. That's a bit of a skill to do that. Yeah, but I do think that that's a path that would be quite easy for you. I don't know if it does feel easy for you, and I don't know if you identify yourself as a personality and an influencer, but at least I see the kind of like the signals and the traits there.
That's really nice of you to say. I think there's two things I totally agree. Using my personal brand to make the business a success, for example, is what I'm absolutely doing. I love, the thing that I love to do is content. Like, I could write all the time, and weirdly, people think I'm a people person. They're like, Christina's always out at networking events, doing all these meetings. But actually, I just love working behind a laptop, writing some content without speaking to anyone. That's the sweet spot. So I love again, like, it's that clarity of message. It's like taking a complex idea, communicating it in a really friendly, easy to understand way, making it fun. So I absolutely love that. And I think, and I love hosting events, stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely. Like, that's an area that I will always, I think, focus on. This thing about Southeast Angels not being reliant on me, it's like, yes, my personal brand will be there and whatnot, but the actual company, I didn't want it relying on me as a person. So I guess it's like separating the brand thing from the...
But your personal brand helps build
100%.
Southeast Angel right
100%.
now. Like, if you weren't present, like, the amount of times that I've seen your posts on LinkedIn and kept me thinking about joining an angel investor group as I was going through, the acquisition and because I think I mentioned this a couple of times when talking to you. I've been helping and mentoring startups for quite a while. Never had the ability to financially support startups. And whenever I would hear about angel investors, I would look up to them and be like, oh, that's so awesome that you can actually financially help someone. Although knowledge is as valuable, I would say. But yeah, just seeing constantly your content on my timeline is always in the back of my mind, always a reminder.
Love that.
Actually,
glad it's working.
there's a group for this, and there's an option for me that's not just going on my own. And I want to highlight the Future Angels initiative that and I think others have been praising that as well. I was there when others have praised that. That is, I think, going back to what you said, you identified a lack of knowledge and a lack of transparency in this angel investors industry and world, and you took action. And Future Angels, that's what it is. It's basically a forum where yourself and angel investors talk about what it means to be an angel investor. And there's at least I don't know of anything out. There might be stuff out there that's like that, but I don't know about any of that. Every single conversation that I had about what it means to be an angel investor, I had it with in a private setting with an angel investor, and that was me wanting to explore this area and wanting to become an angel investor. But and I think I'm stealing your words now, but there's so many people that have that profile of an angel investor and can help startups, but they never think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. And so Future Angels was one of those ideas that I wrote down while I was busy working on Southeast Angels.
And you bought the domain.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is another problem to solve. So Future Angels was born from the idea of actually we just don't have enough diversity. And the reason we don't have diversity is because it's so inaccessible, so hard to get into. And all the conversations I had behind closed doors. And so there are some really great initiatives around like getting more women into investment, like stocks and finance and stuff, but not really much about angel investment where there's no commitment to invest or actually do anything. You're just learning, and it's like no criteria, no barriers to entry, just come along and talk about it. And there's no silly questions like that. That was the goal. And you don't have to have a certain amount of wealth either. Learn now. When you build your wealth, become an investor. And so that was one of the ideas that got through because I couldn't stop thinking about it. I just kept coming back to it. I was like, I have to do this. I can't stop thinking about it. And this is one of the things that I think can absolutely scale actually, as that is part of Southeast Angels, because that doesn't have to be regional, and we can help hundreds or thousands of women or people from different backgrounds become investors as well, which is really excites me.
And that I love, and my stance on this, and whatever I can help with, I would love to see more women and more diversity in this world of investing, and I'll do my damn hardest. I'm putting this on camera.
Love that.
to get Nikki as well.
We'll get Nikki on board eventually.
Switching pace a bit, what keeps you up at night about your entrepreneurship journey? What are the things that you're like, give you a bit of a heartache?
Probably the things all entrepreneurs will say, which is cash and people. Right? Is that what everyone says? I mean, where we are right now as a business, we are not yet a flying sustainable business. We're still a startup ourselves. We've been going for less than 3 years, and we're still trying to, like, the angel group model is has been done many times. It's a traditional type of business, but it's normally founded by investors who want to invest with their friends. So what tends to happen with angel groups is
they have money.
Yeah,
they have resources.
The business is normally a not-for-profit. So you'll have an investor meets with his 3 investor friends. They hire an operations person to run it, and they kind of just, they get as many investors on board as they can. And they've been going for decades, and it's kind of its own little machine. Whereas we're trying to do something a bit differently. We're trying to create a business out of something that is normally done like that. So we actually are still constantly trying to evolve and figure out our business model, and we need to get to a certain level of members for it to be sustainable and to work. So that keeps me up at night. It's like, can we survive the tough years of the start of a business and make this a success? And what a lot of people don't know is, because we are very much a brand, and we do we've raised $1 million for founders, and we speak to all these people. Everyone's like, oh, they're so successful. You guys must be doing well. And in some aspects, we absolutely are successful because, we've had our exit, we've made investments, but we still have the same problems as any other business, around cash, maintaining great people, finding great people, figuring out our business model, and surviving in the tough market that we have this year. So just the standard boring stuff, really.
It pretty much is in a sense a standard, because if I think of that's what kept me late at night, just on the computer trying to figure out things, was one, are we going to get to be self-sustained before we run out of money?
Exactly.
And 2, oh my God, this person is causing challenges here. Oh, how am I going to hire another person? these two people are not getting along. What am I going to do about that, and so on. So
Yeah.
so I think those are, but interesting. My follow-up question on that would be, do you find yourself having to think often about your business model and introducing different structures, do you find like it's a constant race, or do you find that you're polishing a model? Are you polishing a model of growth, or are you constantly pivoting and adjusting and trying things? If you know what I mean with this question.
Yeah, I think so. So I think when we first went into it, I changed the sort of the business model, how we made money a little bit. But I think because I went in quite naively, not really knowing the industry, I spoke to other competitors and what they were doing, and I figured it out myself. But because I went into it with kind of fresh eyes, we did so many different things to a standard angel group, like making it more of a social experience and stuff like that, that we were able to make it more sustainable from the get-go. The thing that we've been working out is like, how can we diversify what we do, our revenue streams? How can we deliver the right value for what we're doing? So it's like, are we doing too much? Are we doing too little? And what do members really want? And as we grow and as the market changes, investors want different things. Founders need different things. So it's almost like trying to shift and find our perfect place in the ecosystem. So there's all sorts of stuff going on in there.
Is it exciting? Is this thing exciting? I mean, I'm asking a question. You told me that you're the problem geek, right? So I suppose I kind of know the answer to this. But sometimes I've kind of had in business two states. One where I would open a Pandora's box and I would look at all of the unknowns that hop in my eye socket at that point and be like, unlimited possibilities, right? This is my playground. Look at all of these challenges that I can pursue and innovate and solve, because I'm already thinking about, I can do this, I can do that, and so on. And then I also had periods where I would open that goddamn Pandora box and I would look inside and be like, oh no,
Not this again.
I
totally get
that. Is that the case for you? Do you find yourself yet another problem or challenge, or we have this, and you wake up excited thinking, today I get to face this thing and it excites me? Is it that for you?
It is. I mean, I think I'm sure many people can relate to that roller coaster feeling.
Oh yes.
And it's crazy how the highs can be so high and the lows can be so low. And actually, one of the main things I've been working on in my own sort of personal growth with my coach is how to even out those waves, because it's mental to me how one day, and it'll be one thing that happens that's positive, and you'll be like, everything's amazing, I run the best business in the world, I'm so good at this. And then one small thing will happen and it's like, this is it, this is the end, it's not going to work. And it's like, how is my brain doing that? And just being really aware of that and realizing how much the little things were affecting me. It's kind of slowly trying to learn and be more stoic and be like, we did a good thing, great. Don't get too excited. Move on. Something bad happened. It's okay. And it's just, for me, it's just been trying to ride out those waves and be a bit more stoic about it. Don't take the good thing as the best thing in the world.
And did you achieve? Are you getting there? You mentioned a coach, which is quite an interesting point. Do you feel like that's helping? Because the reason why I was laughing, look, I don't laugh at your pain and suffering. I'm always laughing when I'm relating to it. I'm like, tell me about it.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same. And I've started, and I think that's the reason why I failed a lot of businesses, because it just destroyed me mentally and emotionally quite often. And I started Jigsaw like that. And Nikki knows. I would go to high frequency to very low frequency type of energy, and and it will constantly happen, roller coaster. And Nikki's a bit more leveled, right? Still she has her days and so, but not like me. I am a drama queen. Like I'll pack my toys and leave and go to the walk peanut and try to basically fix my breathing. With every single thing that starts, which is manic. But over time, spending time with Nikki, I've kind of started adjusting that. So I still have challenges. Like I'm never gonna fix that. It's my character and the way but I learned to deal with my emotions. But because I had the right co-founder,
I mean, that's so amazing to have, right? That you had Nikki by your side, and like as a co-founder, but also as a partner. I think a lot of people don't talk about how much partners are involved in like the stress of somebody running a business. They're like can be your cushion if they're the right emotional state.
But this is why, because you mentioned basically coach, mentor. Every single time I talk to someone and they resemble this pattern, I tell them you need a co-founder that can balance you out and can help you kind of not go through, because when you're alone in your own thoughts, things just amplify.
They escalate. 100%. Totally. And so I have to give a shout out to my coach, because I've been working with her for 5-6 years. She's just an absolute amazing genius person named Claire James. And she's a business coach, but she is to me like a therapist. I'll go in to talk about my marketing strategy and I'll end up talking about my dad. Do you know what I mean? Literally. So she's been helping me in so many different ways. And she is the person that's helped me to figure out those things. And also my partner, Marcus, because I'm the kind of person, I don't know if you relate to this, but in the workplace or anywhere that's outward facing, I'm fine. I'm in control. Everything's great. And I will, no matter how I feel inside, I will never really project that.
Yeah.
I could be dying of stress inside. I'll never project it.
Right.
And the only person that gets to see it is my partner, Marcus, when I get home and I can be myself. So those two people in my life have helped me to get through that. One supporting me and Claire helped me figure out that just being aware of what's happening, that it's not so bad and it's not so good, and evening it out and just constantly working at it. So I do feel like just in the last, I'd say year, I feel less crazy.
Less crazy. Okay, that's always a good thing. Isn't it? Yeah, and it's identifying, and I talk about this all the time, and I feel that I constantly repeat myself, and probably on these podcasts I repeat myself all the time. But repetition, I feel that is good, because if I hear a couple of people or the same person telling me this, probably going to eventually stick with me. So, I'm more than happy for people to hear the same bloody thing over and over again. But it's that ability to identify that you have a problem, right? Which often we're very bad at. We're super bad at identifying that we have a problem, right? So you might be going through this roller coaster and
you just think that's
entrepreneurship
reality.
Is shit, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. It's not me. This entrepreneur thing is just a crap show. Excuse my language, right? So why do it? Because it's so intense and so on, and it's only through, because that's the same thing that I've gone through. I've been through so many businesses, and every single time I would suffer immensely. Yeah, I would have a couple of joys, but then the suffering was significant, and I would beat myself up so much. But it was never me identifying that I have challenges and I have lacks and that I'm taking things a bit too hard. It was always, the environment is too challenging.
Yeah.
And it took getting a co-founder like Nikki for me to identify this, and for basically not me identify it. She would tell me, you are bloody intense. You need to calm down. And I think that's having a co-founder that is a bit the opposite and can identify and vocalize some of these things. Having a mentor again that is a lot more senior and can look at that and say, hey, I think there's something there that you need to explore, because we as humans are terrible autocrats, right? Like we're super bad at analyzing ourselves and saying, yeah, this is what I'm bad at and this is what I need to change.
And actually just also when things are bad, just sharing that with somebody, whether it's your coach, friend, or founder friend, ideally, because they'll understand it a bit better. I found that when you're going for a really rough patch, just calling somebody and just sharing it just puts you back on the actual reality, out of your like, oh, this reality I'm in is really, really negative, and just kind of takes you out of that. Every time I've spoken to anyone, even if it's like a client or a customer or whatever, it just changes your view again. It's like, okay, everything isn't so bad.
And this is going back to angel investing and startup founders looking for financial support and advice and things like that. It is a significant red flag if a founder that I've invested knowledge or financial resources in does not pick up the phone to call me when they're going through hardships. And I find it at a quarterly report meeting and say, oh, but I've been through this challenge and so on. But you've never reached out to...
And we talked about this the other day, didn't we? That actually a big part of that is founders feeling like they can't, or that they shouldn't talk to investors when things are bad. And I think that needs to change, right? And that's actually with anybody. It's like, we talk to people when things are good. We don't share when things are bad. Yeah. And what I love about what you're doing is, you were telling me the other day about the kind of expectations you set as an investor with founders of like, here's what I can do to help. Reach out to me if you have this, this, and this. And I think that's so important, because founders don't know what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. So they don't particularly do it for a negative reason. They just don't know that they can or that they should.
Yeah. And I think that's seeking... And look, I've learned through just pure coincidence. No one actually told me, and I wish someone would have told me this earlier, is just talk to people. Talk to as many people as you can. Yeah. Even if you're an introvert, you don't have to talk, but listen. Because
ask questions,
if you're able to listen to a wide range of people, a diverse group of people. And this is an advice that is for the startup founder world, but it's in general, right? You change your perspective, you broaden your perspective, you understand that there are movies and storylines that exist out there that aren't yours, that have a completely different perspective on things. And that's why every single time someone wants to talk to me, I'm game. It doesn't matter. I'm not busy for anyone. And I've had so many discussions in the Atlassian ecosystem with people that wanted to start, that were in between, that any type of topics, because I've done the same. I've kept and I've started discussion. Just the other day, I met with one of our angel investors over a coffee, 4 a.m. in the afternoon, 4 p.m. in the afternoon, a.m. That would be early. 4 p.m. in the afternoon, we were supposed to meet for an hour, made it 2, and just talked and talked and talked. And it was an amazing conversation. So I seek just chatting with people with absolutely no intent oh, I need to get this from it. No, just talking to people. And that's why when someone reaches out, yes, more than happy and available. And I encourage everyone to do that, because that's the only way that you gain perspective. Anyways, I think we can talk about this stuff for hours, and I'm sure we'll have a part 2 eventually. I want to close off with asking you the same 3 questions. This is my closing ceremony.
Okay. Love it.
The same 3 questions, every single founder that comes along. The first one is, what is a quote that you live by?
Everything feels impossible until it's done.
Okay. I feel that comes from your addiction to problem solving, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's just like, the more you read about like just anything in life, the economy, business, whatever, nothing existed at one point. And now we do all these insane things in the world. And so just remembering that whenever you're trying to do something complex or difficult that seems like super impossible, like how the hell am I going to grow this giant business or create this brand or whatever it is, everything felt like that before it was done. So just remembering that makes me feel like I can do it as well. So I try and live my whole life through that.
That's amazing. Wait, I was expecting it to be something of that sort, to be honest, just knowing you a bit. And how about a book that really helped shape your life, be it your personal or professional life?
This is the hardest question because I want to say so many. Can I say two?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is Sapiens by Yuval Nahari, I think is the surname. Do you know that one?
No.
So it's the history of humankind. Mm-hmm. Just explains how humans came to be where they are. And the reason that book was amazing for me personally is because I'm an immigrant to this country. My parents moved here when I was 5. And because of that, I think I lived a lot of my younger life being very following rules and being like, don't ask questions, do what you need to do. And that's the kind of mentality put me in. So it's a whole other story. But reading that book, which I only read like maybe three or so years ago, made me see the world in this whole new light that it changed me completely, because I finally understood that a lot of things are made up, that a lot of rules and life is just constructs that people put together, and it helped me to break rules in a good way. So that changed my life. And then the business book that changed my perspective on things was it's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And now I've forgotten the really famous person who wrote that book, but I'm sure people will find it. And that one's a contrarian view of running a startup, because there's all these rule books, as I said, and that book's like, there are no rules. Here's some realistic examples of what happened, or like how to have this tough conversation and stuff like that. It's an amazing book.
Perfect. And I think it's quite a popular book, so I'm sure people will find it. And third is, what is a good habit that you advocate for?
Just move, exercise. Like that's I have a bit of a fitness background, obviously, but nothing helps your mind as much as like getting your body moving. And however tough it's going, whatever tough things are happening up there, you should always start with physical. So anytime I'm down the dumps, I'm going for a run, I'm getting my body moving, and just really nice, simple thing to do.
I think that I share that significantly. Like just like going to the gym and training early in the morning, endorphins just makes you feel better, and even 100%. Helps you with your mood and mental well-being in a sense. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was
Thanks
a pleasure.
for having me. Yes.
It's a pleasure
I've
to
had
have
a great
you on.
time.
And I feel that we can talk for ages, so we'll definitely have part 2.
I love that. Let's do it.